Warning! This video will have spoilers to Black Clover. If you are yet to read or watch Black Clover, please refrain from watching this video. Hey guys, it's me Jake here, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite mangas of all time, which is Black Clover, and I'm going to be doing something different that I don't usually do, and that's rating each and every arc in Black Clover. Currently there's 11 arcs in Black Clover, and while I'm rating these, I'm going to review them or do like a really small review on them to say why they got their rating. To start off is the introduction arc, which goes from the, of course, first chapter up until when they start the dungeon exploration. So that involves from Asta when he just gets his grimoire, and just gets his 4-leaf, and then it goes to the Magic Knight examination. Then after that, the Saucy Village invasion. So it uses those 3 arcs. I think it does a decent job introducing the series and bringing it upon the world, but it doesn't really keep up to every other arc in Black Clover, which is why I'm doing this. Of course, getting to know Asta and and their backstory was really, really interesting. And seeing like Asta's relationship with the other characters at Hajj, seeing how he gets mistreated, but he still wants to prove everyone wrong, and all that kind of just is interesting, but it's not amazing. I like the intro arc. Still think it's one of the better intro arcs in shonens, but I don't think it really keeps up to like the rest of Black Clover at all. I think the first couple arcs are not that great in Black Clover, so yeah. Next up is the dungeon exploration arc. The dungeon exploration arc goes from when they start the dungeon exploration up until they leave and go to the banquet in the royal capital. So I'm gonna give this like a 7.3 because I think it's better than the introduction. But the thing about this arc is they really don't explore the dungeon that much, which I thought the dungeon would have been really interesting, but instead they just have a race with Asta and and they're just slashing at all the traps so then they can just get through there as fast as possible. And it really just is used so Asta and can get their new abilities, with Asta getting his new sword and getting his spirit magic and bell. And then also showing the different kingdoms, because they also show Mars and the smoke magic guy, I forgot his name. They really just use it for that. So I don't see them ever going back into a dungeon really, which I really thought dungeons were really interesting, and if it went that route I wouldn't have been mad. I think the dungeons were pretty interesting enough to keep along the story, but they did not explore it almost at all. And how they explained it with Julius right after it was like, oh, this could have been so much cooler than it was. But actually no, Julius explained it before it. Never mind, I messed that one up. But yeah, still, it really just got my nerves, and I just thought it could have been way better than it was, but they didn't do it right in my opinion. But it's still a good arc. It's not terrible, it's just not great. Also, I love how they do show Luck's backstory and how they interpret Luck's backstory. I think that was really interesting to see why Luck is kind of a psychopath, and also it also tells us about Luck's nickname, the Cherry Berserker, which is one of my favorite nicknames, to be honest. Cherry Berserker is a sick nickname, mostly for a character like Luck, who's legit like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's pretty great. I love it. But next up is the Royal Capital Invasion arc. I will give this arc a 9.5 out of 10. That's because this, in my opinion, is where Black Clover picks up and starts becoming amazing, just throughout the whole story. Of course, there's going to be dips in it. Like, there's always going to be dips in stories. Like, I think the all training arcs in Shonen aren't that great. Of course, the Forest training arc in My Hero is pretty good. I do think it's one of the better ones, and I would probably rate it way higher than normal training arcs. But this one, I mean, in Black Clover, the training arcs are kind of like, there's not many, so it's not like you can't say anything, but I don't really like many training arcs in Shonen, so yeah. But get back on topic. The Royal Capital Invasion arc starts from when they go from the banquet in the Royal Capital and ends when Rades leaves with the spatial magic user and all that. And basically, I love this arc because it shows what's going on, who's a sick character. an amazing character. I love what's going on, and one of his quotes is one of my favorite quotes of all time in any piece of literature, which is, "Being weak is nothing to be ashamed of, but staying weak is." That's a really good quote in anything. You can use it for many things in life, but I love how it showed his leadership. I loved how it showed everything about Fuegoleon and the Magic Knight captains around him, because Fuegoleon didn't care if you were a royal or a peasant. He just cared that you can do your job. While then there's no Zell, who literally does not even look at peasants and is like, "Get away from me, you peasant scum," to Asta during the banquet, and basically just shoves his sister aside because she's a failed royal. Well, failed royal, but we're not going to talk about it till later. But it shows a lot of the character traits from different captains and different characters, which is really interesting, and how they play it, and makes it way more interesting for the whole story. Because I think what Black Clover has that is really unique is that character interaction in this series is really interesting and intricate on how they have each character interact with each other, which is one of the reasons I really love Black Clover and think it's super unique. Not many series do that, and that's why I think when people say Black Clover is a Naruto copy, I don't believe it, because one of the main driving forces of Black Clover is its character interactions. And you might say that about Naruto, but I feel like character interactions in Naruto, what pull through the story through, is more fights, but it's my opinion, so I'm just gonna get off that topic. So yeah, I love this fight, this arc, and the fights in this arc are amazing. Like Asta versus Rades, Asta and Leopold versus Rades. Then you see Fuegoleon get trapped in the spatial magic, and then he gets severely injured, and his magic stone gets taken. That's how this arc ends, and I think it really builds that no one is really safe in Black Clover. Anyone can get injured severely and not get to come back for a really long time. So yeah, now to get on to the next arc after I had that long tangent about the Royal Capital arc. It's the Eye of the Midnight Sun / Narn Village arc, which I'll give this arc an 8.5, but that's because I really would either give it a 7.5 for the beginning or like a 9.5 for the end, because from when they start the arc with the mixer with Finral, Asta, and Luck to when the Eye of the Midnight Sun shows up, it's really not that interesting. Of course, they introduce characters. They have characters' backstories like Ghosh. I really was interested in Ghosh's backstory and how they played that, because Ghosh's backstory was super cool. I really like Ghosh's character, even though he's kind of just like a sister complex freak, which is very, very true. But why he has a sister complex is interesting. And also, from when the Eye of the Midnight Sun shows up till the end when they leave, is like an insanely good part. And also, when that happens, when the Eye of the Midnight Sun are during their fight, there's a very interesting foreshadow that happens with an interaction between Ghosh and Licht, which also this arc introduces Licht, the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, and the Third Eye, which is kind of like the Eye of the Midnight Sun's big three. And that interaction foreshadows that Ghosh will become an elf in the reincarnation arc, which is really interesting because they are literally foreshadowing something almost 100 plus chapters ahead of it happening, which I don't usually see. And also in the introduction arc, they do also show two characters that are not shown until like 200 chapters ahead. In the second chapter, they show Henry and they show dwarf form Charmy, which they don't show until like mid to late in the reincarnation arc, which blew my mind. And I also kind of gave it a point. I was going to give the intro arc a 6, but I gave it a 7 because of that. But getting back on this arc, the beginning with the fights between Ghosh, Asta, and the sister versus Nej and Barrow is a good fight, but it isn't really good until Sally shows up and injects Barrow with her serum thing, which is why I'm not really interested in the beginning of this arc. Also, the arc introduces Rebecca, who's kind of like a rival to Noelle for Asta's harem, but yeah. And the fights after that with Yami showing up and Finral showing up and Ghosh, Asta versus the Eye of the Midnight Sun were really interesting. How they introduced the Third Eye was pretty interesting with Raya, Fauna, and oh my god, Veto. I almost forgot Veto's name. I was going to call him Baltos, but I don't know why I did. I'm rereading Black Clover right now, which very much inspired this video, and I just finished the Water Temple arc, so I don't know why I completely forgot Veto's name, but I don't know. But yeah, that whole entire end of the arc was really interesting. We also got to see 3 more captains that we really didn't see any of, and that was Jack the Ripper, Charlotte, and Nozel showed up. Nozel, but we already saw Nozel in the Royal Capital arc. We really didn't see anything of Charlotte, and I don't even think we saw any Jack the Ripper in that one, who's the leader of the Green Praying Mantises, I believe that's the name of it, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, giving this one 8.5 because I don't know how to rank it, because I really don't like the beginning, but the end of the arc is amazing. So yeah. Next one's the Water Temple arc. I'm gonna give this arc an 8.8, and that's because I think the Water Temple arc is pretty interesting and helps develop Noelle as a character with her magic getting way better, but it also really doesn't. Her magic doesn't really get great. Like, she only has Sea Dragon's Lair until the Veto fight, when she surpasses her limits, as Yami would say. But yeah, I think the fights in this arc are pretty good. Like, the Veto fight in general was really good, and how he fought like multiple characters was really interesting, because this arc really introduced combo magic, and that really was interesting. With Magna and Luck going after Veto again, just going after Veto and them using both lightning and fire at the same time, making combo magic Flame Cannon. I think it's called Flame Cannon, the magic they use. But it's really interesting how they use that, and then they also used when Asta, Vanessa, and Finral were fighting him, how they had Vanessa control Asta so he had more mobility in the air, while Finral was teleporting him. That's some really interesting stuff, and that's really interesting to see combo magic, which we don't see too much after this, but I really do really enjoy when they do it, because it's a really good use of how they have their power system set up. And the power system in Black Clover is, as you develop as a character, you get more spells, which is why Black Clover's power system is really interesting, because how you develop is how your spells develop. So if you're selfish, your spells are going to be more focused towards you. If you're like Mimosa and you're more like selfless, then your spells help others, like a recovery mage. But yeah, the fights in this arc are great. The story behind it and how the Black Bulls are selected, because Julius can't really trust anyone else after finding out the captain of the Purple Orcas helped the Eye of the Midnight Sun. Also interesting. So they had to have the Black Bulls, because he's the only one that they trusted to get the Magic Stone from the Water Temple. And yeah, I thought this was a good arc, pretty good. I think the beginning was also kind of slow. I think most Black Clover arcs have a pretty slow beginning, but once they get to like that middle and end, it just blows me away and it's really good. I think Black Clover has a really slow start to every arc, which is kind of annoying, because if they have a small arc with like the intro arc or the dungeon exploration arc, it doesn't really get fast until there's like 3 chapters left, which is kind of annoying. But when it's a longer arc, it's really interesting and I really love it. Next up is another amazing arc. I'm also going to give this one I'm going to give this one an 8.9. I think this one's a little better than the Water Temple arc. And that is the Witch Forest arc, which has Asta getting healed by the Queen of the Witches. And it ends, where does it end? Oh yeah, when they go into the hot spring training arc. I don't know why I forgot that, but basically, Asta's arms are messed up from the Veto fight and he can't move them. So they go to the Queen of Witches to try heal him. And then during that, they get invaded by Valtos, Mars, and then Fauna from the Eye of the Midnight Sun. Which has salamander magic, the flame spirit. Well, not salamander magic, the flame salamander spirit magic. Sorry, but yeah, has them invade the Witch's Forest. And this is also the arc that has Asta gain his black demon form, which is also one of my favorite transformations. I'm just gonna say this. It's really interesting, his black demon form, and I really love it. So, just gonna put that out there. So, I really like this arc. How they have Fauna come back from literally hinting at her from the dungeon exploration arc, because Mars said he killed her, and then she comes back, and he's like, what? He's like, that was a really good twist. And when she comes back to her senses, it's really interesting as well. So yeah, 8.9 out of 10 for the Witch's Forest arc. Next one, like I was talking about earlier, it's a training arc. It's the Hot Spring training arc. Didn't really like this arc. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to be completely honest. I really thought, yes, it had Mariona on it, which is one of my favorite characters as well. Her and Fuegoleon, they're brother and sister, but they're like up in my top 5, both of them. I would put Fuegoleon 5, her 4 probably, or her 3. She's such a great character. I love her character. So yeah, I really like how they introduced her, but they also like did nothing else in this arc. It was just a training arc, so I can't really say much. I'm just gonna give it a 7 because I didn't think it was horrid. I didn't think it was great, but it did go into the Magic Knights tournament arc, which was, I would give it a 9.3. I think it's one of the better arcs in Black Clover. The Magic Knight tournament arc introduces my probably 3rd favorite Black Bull in Zora. Zora is such a great character. I love his interactions with everyone that's Magic Knight. He's like, you guys are not Magic Knights with how you act, and he does not like anyone that isn't like an Asta Magic Knight, where they're just really just trying to protect people. And his background and his backstory, I mean, is also really interesting with how his dad was a Magic Knight and was murdered because he was a peasant, and no Royal Magic Knight wants to have a peasant on their Magic Knight squad. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Langris versus Finral was one of the better fights. Give me 1 second. I love this fight so much, and how they end this fight with Finral laying on the ground with holes all over him, and Langris literally just about to kill him, and then Asta, Magna, and Luck just come over, and they're like, you're not killing our boy. You're just not. Yeah. It's amazing. I also love how they changed Finral's hairstyle in this arc. I really didn't like Finral's hairstyle in the past until they did this to him. Now my boy's a baller. How he has his hair dyed to the same color as his outfit. I really love Finral, as you can tell. I think Finral's a really interesting character, and it really builds upon Finral in this arc. Yes, you do see some background and backstory with Finral in the Water Temple arc, where he's like, I used to think I was nothing, and that my mom just said Langris was better than me, but I will make my squad the strongest brigade, he says. I think he said, I won't be the strongest, but I'll make my brigade the strongest. Which is also a really good Finral quote, which I completely forgot he said until I reread Black Clover. And I love this series, so I just love Finral. And this arc has really amazing fights. I love the tournament. I love how they use the tournament in 3v3s instead of 1v1s, and how they have people that use their magic on the terrain, how they do. It's really interesting, and I really like this arc. So yeah, and also I like how Asta kind of went, yeah, you just did that to Finral, and then next round he has Langris, and he's just like, this is not going to go well for you, bud. That was interesting, and I really did like how, at the end, and Julius is like, you should just join, says to Zora, or Zerx, as how he pretended, the person he pretended to be. He's like, you should really join a Magic Knight squad, and he's like, I already had an offer, but no. And then he puts his Black Bull's robe on. That was amazing. I really love Zora, as you can tell, but Zora is one of my favorite characters in Black Clover, like I said earlier. So yeah. On to the next arc. We have 3 arcs left. This arc is the longest in Black Clover by far. That is the Reincarnation arc, which I would give it 9.5. This arc does start off slow, but it introduces very many things. It introduces Gordon's magic, which we knew was poison magic, but we didn't know how strong it was or what it looked like till now. We had Gordon and Gray protect the Black Bull's hideout, and then we meet another great character who is Henry, another Black Bull that we did not know other than when they foreshadowed it in Chapter 2. And 9 arcs later, they finally showed who Henry was, which is mind-boggling to me, but yeah. And this arc has so many good fights, like Asa and Yuno versus Licht, Asa, Yuno, Lumiere, and Pietri versus the Devil, and Yami and Charlotte, well, not Charlotte, but the elf and Charlotte Spotty, had Mariona versus 5 elves. That was one of the best fights in all of Black Clover by far. Just how you just see all these elves with super strong magic, and Mariona is just like this, and taking all the hits, and she stands still from 5 elf magic users, well, not elf magic, but elves using magic at the same time, just hitting her, and she just stands still, and they're like, she's still standing? God, this arc was so good. Also, it had Asta and Zora do the basically playing baseball with each other to make the magic even stronger, because Zora put his trap magic on his body, which reflects magic, and Asta kept hitting it back at him to keep doubling the amount of magic power it has, because whenever something hits its seal on Zora's magic, it reflects with 2 times the strength. So Asta just kept hitting him with the magic, and it became like 64 times or 128 times or something. And then they finally shot it at the elves. So many good moments come from this arc. Like the Yami's interdimensional slash on the devil from like a mile away. That happens in this arc. The Joyce and Licht fight, that happens in this arc. This arc has so many great things. And then everyone in Black Bulls, when they meet Henry, is just like, who are you? And then Asta's just like, oh, hey, Henry, because he doesn't have magic, so he can see Henry, because no one can see Henry. Well, they can technically see Henry, but they could never go in his room, because his illness makes him take all the magic away from everyone in the house, and if you go into that room, you're just going to get almost all your magic absorbed in like 3 seconds. So the only people that ever have seen Henry are Yami and Asta. So everyone's just like, who are you? Then he's like, oh, I've been here. I just am draining all your magic right now. And they're like, oh, okay. And yeah, I just love this arc so much. I'm going to start rambling about this arc, because I'm just rambling with there's no story in this rambling. I'm just rambling for rambling purposes. But yeah, that ends, and it goes into the beginning of the Dark Triad arc, which... Okay, the pre-time skip, I'm separating this into 2 arcs. Pre-time skip Dark Triad and post-time skip Dark Triad. And this recent... I'm going to talk about the pre-time skip, never mind. Pre-time skip has Asta get, like, charged for stuff during the reincarnation arc. And he has to go to the Heart Kingdom. Then the Spade Kingdom's working with the demons. And then we go to Gordon's house. Yada, yada, yada. But basically... we find out about array magic, which just basically helps you make your magic better. And after the reincarnation arc, everyone that had elf magic in them got stronger. So Yuno got stronger, and Luck got stronger. Luck's elf form, I better have a figure for. That form is so sick, and I want a figure for it so bad. But back onto this arc. Basically, it shows another way to get stronger for people. And it's really interesting. So I'd give this one an 8. I would give this one a good 8 to 8.5. I think this arc does a pretty good job doing what it has to do. But, of course, it's not the best arc in Black Clover, in my opinion. Post-time skip Dark Triad arc, though. Well, then, this arc so far is really interesting. And we get to meet yet another Black Bull, which is the most recent chapter, where we meet the vice captain of the Black Bulls, who also has a demon inside him like Asta, named Noct. This arc is so interesting, where they have Leopold getting stronger and showing him versus a Dark Triad member. We have Charmy getting stronger, going up against a Dark Triad member. Luck getting even more stronger, and Magna getting jealous. He literally says, I wish I was as strong as you, or something like that, during the pre-time skip arc. And now that it's post-time skip, we still yet to see quite a few Black Bulls. We've yet to see Zora and Magna. I don't think we've seen Henry. I don't think we've seen Gray use her magic yet. But we have seen Gray. We haven't seen Vanessa use magic other than the String of Fate or whatever, the cat, which is given to her during the Witch Forest arc, which is really busted, but it didn't matter. The Dark Triad is also really interesting with Vonica. Forgot the guy that Asta and Yami were fighting, but yeah. And then you have Asta getting way stronger and cooler looking, and Asta being able to fly on his sword like people would fly on brooms. That was very good. I like that a lot. And yeah, I think that this arc is a 9.5 out of 10 to 9, a 9 to 9.5, because I think this arc has very much potential. But I think this arc is probably ending right now and going to a training arc, because at the end of the recent chapter, Nox like, I like you and I want to show you how to use your demon because Asta's demon calls him weak. So yeah, and now Yami was taken by the Dark Triad, and so is Vengeance, and the Dark Triad dissimulated the Golden Dawn, like destroyed the Golden Dawn to no avail. And during the pre-time skip, I forgot to mention this, we also learned about Yuno's real backstory when he was a baby, him being the prince of the Spade Kingdom, and that's why he's super strong. So yeah, but the post-time skip Dark Triad arc, I can't really say much, because I really don't want to spoil it for the people that aren't super far into the Dark Triad arc, but man, oh man, this is gonna be this is leading up to some good stuff. I cannot wait. This arc has so many good moments. Like when they see one of the stronger members of the Dark Triad, it's Luck, and everyone's like, "You want to fight him, Luck?" And Luck's just smiling, saying, "No, because I will die." And that's the only time Luck has ever said no to a fight, because he just senses he's so strong that he has zero chance to win. And that is so interesting and so good to see how much more powerful these characters are going to have to get on this level. And yeah, I just love the series, and I love Black Clover in general, and love how they're building the series. Even at chapter 268, how they're continuing to build up these characters and build up these villains to get stronger and stronger and more interesting and more interesting. Of course, I thought the elves and Licht and Pietri Licht/Pietri were super cool. Naro was a good character to introduce during the reincarnation arc, but they're leading up to really good stuff, I believe. And if they do it right, mostly because now Asta has Yami's sword. Yami gave Asta his sword to use because his sword was running out or something. I forgot what it was. I literally read this chapter last week and I completely forgot. But now it's inside Asta's grimoire. So yeah, Asta's gonna be using a katana from now on, probably. So, I mean, Asta has 4 swords now. 4 swords. I cannot wait to see what happens. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I hope I see you guys next time. So, peace!